Is this the most effective way to learn a language? That's what Rosetta Stone claims with their dynamic immersion method and expertly designed lessons. But is this really the case? I've been using Rosetta Stone for over an hour per day for the past few weeks and counting to learn Spanish from scratch. I'm going to break down exactly how this app works, share the pros and the cons, including all the bugs and the issues that I have encountered. We'll look at how far my Spanish has actually come in a couple of weeks, and how effective is it really? Rosetta Stone claimed their very own dynamic immersion method taps into our brain's innate ability to learn new languages. So before we dive into what this even means, we first need to understand the word immersion. You might know someone who moved to another country as a kid without speaking a word of that language, but by being surrounded by it at school and on TV, they acquired the language naturally. Every single one of us acquired our very own native languages this way when we were babies. Immersion is an approach to help learners mimic this natural language acquisition process to learn a language more effectively. But the elephant in the room here is that we aren't kids anymore, and most of us don't have the luxury to simply pack up our lives and move overseas to the country where our target language is spoken. And that's where different tools and resources like Rosetta Stone come in to try to help learners solve this problem. But how? Well, let's take a look at one of the lessons. So the gist of Rosetta Stone is that they present you with tiles containing pictures, phrases, and native recorded audio. And through looking at the different options, you have to decipher the meaning of the words without needing to actually translate anything into English. Now, translating the words is actually an option. You can click this little button here. However, honestly, I rarely need to do this. Let's take a look at the course structure. Now, this is all the different languages you can learn with Rosetta Stone. They break down their courses into 20 units. Within units, there are 4 lessons. Within these lessons, there are core lessons, grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, reading, listening, speaking, and review lessons. Within the settings, you can actually change the course type that you want to undertake. You can choose reading and writing, or speaking and listening, or all 4 of these, or you can even choose an extended version of this. So the core lesson introduces you generally to new vocabulary, new grammar, but it also builds on what you've already been learning in the previous topics. You get listening and reading practice simply by seeing and hearing the phrases. And if you have speech recognition turned on, you get pronunciation practice as well. No, pero el maestro tiene uno. This core lesson type is my personal favorite because I always feel like I'm learning something new. The grammar lessons I also find helpful because they highlight particular words and letters to force you to make grammar observations, which are certain things that you'd probably normally overlook. They do kind of naturally help you to draw connections purely through observation and repetition. The reading lessons, I find them pointless because I feel like you get reading practice through all the other lesson types already. The listening lessons, they basically don't show you any text on the screen and you have to just listen to the prompt and then decipher which photo applies. I find this a really good exercise for really long phrases. The writing lessons I found to be the most challenging, but they can also be quite effective listening exercises. They're only available on the browser and not the app. They read a sentence out loud, so it tests your listening already, and then you have to type out the phrase. It's tough because one tiny little spelling mistake and then you get the question wrong. You can either choose to keep going or you can redo the questions that you get wrong later on if you want to. You don't lose any energy like you would do on Duolingo or something like that. The speaking lessons are a combination of pronunciation practice, but it also sometimes tests your ability to actively try to create your own sentences. The pronunciation practice I also find redundant just because you get this in the core lessons and also in the speaking lessons. What I will talk about now is the interface, and I'll start with what I like about it, which is that you can take or just skip whatever lessons that you want to. They also do not have a streak feature, which is very unusual for popular language learning apps. Personally, I find it super refreshing. However, some of the images are not very easy to understand. You will get questions wrong just because you can't work out what the image is. Plus, then on the mobile app, on some of the questions, the images will be so tiny. I initially started out solely doing Rosetta Stone in the app, but I was actually running into a lot of issues with the speech recognition. It was like it just wouldn't pick up my voice very well, and I was actually getting extremely frustrated because sometimes I'd have to repeat something like 5 different times. If Rosetta Stone was faster and there were less delays in between questions, I would want to use this tool a lot more. The speaking lessons do seem to slow everything down a ton.
La librería está abierta.
La librería está abierta.
La librería está abierta.
And I wish you could just turn off this additional repetition at the end. So in addition to Rosetta Stone's course content, they also offer extended learning material. You get a phrase book. This contains some common phrases which you can repeat. There is also the audio companion.
Listen and repeat.
Un hombre. Una mujer.
Really good revision. It kind of in a way reminds me of Pimsleur. Like you could just play this when you're driving in the car. They also have live videos where you can watch conversation videos speaking the language. Now, as for my favorite bonus feature, that would be the stories feature. The problem that many language learners encounter is finding content that is at the right level for you. But the stories feature are sorted in the app by unit, and each step is broken down into 3 parts. So the first part, you basically read the full story in your own time, go through it and understand it. And then second, it becomes like an audiobook and you listen to a native speaker read you the story out loud. So you can just sit back and actually focus on understanding it. Can you decipher all the words now that you've gone through and read it? And then third, you can also record yourself reading the book out loud to practice your pronunciation, but also improve your speaking skills. And so not every day, but every few days, I will go to the stories. And it's been making me really excited because it feels so satisfying to know that I can already read and understand Spanish. Doesn't matter how simple it is, it's a good feeling and it's motivating and it makes you want to keep going. From there, it's just about slowly building up your capabilities, increasing the level of difficulty as you come across new words and grammar. But is the app really worth it? Can you learn a language all the way to fluency? Well, it's worth noting first of all that Rosetta Stone do offer a free trial. So I have a link in the description below if you do want to try it out for yourself. Looking at their different pricing options, you can either get a 3-month or a 12-month plan. With these, you only get access to 1 language. The other option is that they have a lifetime plan with unlimited languages, which obviously offers the best value, but it's only going to be good value if you actually use the app and if you're going to be using it either for longer than 12 months or if you can see yourself using this for multiple languages. Personally, I tried out Rosetta Stone's free trial initially, and the app really stuck out to me because finally I felt like I could actually use an app that would get me started in a new language, but without needing to translate every single thing back into English. It really struck me that this whole app is entirely immersive and it did feel a lot more natural. I feel like it has in a way sped things up because I don't have to translate things into English. I kind of just read the language for what it is from day one. And that has been something that I've never really done before. I subscribed to the 3-month plan. Now I did this because generally speaking, I only suggest really using apps for the first month or 2 when learning a new language anyway, because I think apps are really good to get you to learn the basics of a language and also to ease yourself into it in quite a fun, but it still offers you structure. So with sticking to the app, doing a little bit over an hour every day, I do feel like I have learned quite a lot in just a couple of weeks. Plus, I do feel like I have this kind of introductory gist or feel for the language, for the pronunciation, for a little bit of the intonation. I'll note as well that I have already learned French. That does make Spanish a little bit easier for me because there are some similarities there that I have been seeing come up. So I would recommend this app for beginners. just for a couple of months to learn the basics of a language. However, like I said, the app is quite slow. So if you personally find that you're literally bored to death using the app and that it doesn't actually inspire you to want to keep learning your target language, then I don't suggest it. You'll either love or hate this one, but you won't know unless you try. Now, as for intermediate learners who already can somewhat speak the language and are looking for some more advanced material, I don't think that Rosetta Stone's going to be for you. When I was on the free trial, I did take a look at the German course and I went all the way to the last lesson within the course just to see how advanced it went, and I didn't really find that I was learning much new. So I don't believe you can learn a language all the way to fluency with this app alone. You'd still need conversation practice outside of the app. With their extended materials, I do think that you could get a lot further than you could with many other apps, because the stories, they actually give you a chance to apply the language. So if you do want to try out Rosetta Stone, the link is in the description. And if you want to learn more about how to find immersive content, but also how an app would fit into an overall language learning strategy, then go and click here next, because I made a full video breaking that all down.